what I really felt that the film for me just kind of lacked was in its pacing. I think that it's a film that its age kind of works against it for somebody who's seeing it for the first time.
A big.
Oh shit! Find out you drunk, cat.
Child, you lost your damn mind.
All right, now I ain't got time. I ain't got time for this today, man. And here's the review.
6 kids in 4 rooms.
36 and it ain't home.
20th Century Fox presents James Earl Jones and Diane Carroll in Claudine.
It's gonna wind up chicken anyway.
You'll dig Claudine.
So, what brings us here today? 70s movie, Claudine, starring Diane Carroll, James Earl Jones before Star Wars, back when he still had a stutter. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, who many people know him from the 70s sitcom Welcome Back, Carter. He was also in films like Youngblood, Cooley High, and in the 90s he played Michael Jackson's father, Joe Jackson, in the made-for-TV Jackson's movie. All right, and a bunch of other actors that you've never seen before. And it was directed by this French dude. I forgot the brother's name, but there was some controversy behind his career because he got blacklisted from Hollywood back in the 50s for being a communist. So he had to exile to France, came back 20 years, I guess, after the blacklist ended, and then he came back and did movies like Claudine and other stuff. And of course, he's passed away by now. But yeah, French white dude directed this movie. Yeah, I picked this out for you, bro, because I just knew. I said, okay, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the 70s movie where Perez is going to be like, you know what? I actually like that one.
I like Superfly. To be clear, I did like Superfly.
You did like Superfly. You did. And man, Superfly is so inferior to this film to me because everything about this movie, from the soundtrack, the score, by the way, same composer, Curtis Mayfield, did the soundtrack for this one as well as Superfly. So I know you like music, bro. Do yourself a favor and check out those soundtracks, man. Superfly and Claudine. Curtis Mayfield is like the GOAT. That guy is like a fucking Jedi master when it comes to musical scores and whatnot. So this movie deals with, of course, the, how you say it, titular character, titular. There you go. Single mom of 6 kids, all different baby daddies, catches the eye of James Earl Jones, who's a garbage man. And I guess she fine as hell, because if I find out a woman has 6 kids, I'm sorry, even if she look good, I ain't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm not doing that. But he has eyes for her. They go out, and then this whole love story blossoms out of this, where now he takes on the role of husband and stepfather to these kids. But there's a twist here. She's on welfare. All right. And if you know anything about welfare, you know that they don't like a man in the house. They don't like 2 parent households. They like the mom to be single, struggling by herself, and not working. So when they introduce him, that just, messes everything up. I love this movie. It's one of my favorites, has one of the best soundtracks ever. But enough of my praise. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes of this. Perez, I have failed you, Perez. I have failed you. I'm sorry for all of it. And this is the part where you say, I'm not your failure, Rashad. You didn't make those bad 70s movies. They did.
Nah, bro. I would, man, in hindsight, here's what I'll say is we did Claudine. So for anybody, just for a little added context before I get into my thoughts here, Claudine was a video we were supposed to do a while ago, but it wasn't anywhere. It wasn't easy to find. And at the time, I can't remember what happened. We just like changed course to like, you had another one right at your back pocket. You're like, just do this one instead. I go, like, no problem. So when you hit me up that it was on YouTube to watch, I was like, okay, perfect. I'll go and check it out and we'll knock this out. Now, I don't think you failed me, because funny enough, you showed me a bunch of blaxploitation films from the 60s and 70s, and then worked me up to Black Dynamite, which I had never seen. And, in retrospect, watching all those blaxploitation films like Coffee or Superfly, or just, insert random blaxploitation film, Black Belt Jones, all these things that we watched, it ultimately kind of set me up to really appreciate Black Dynamite. I loved Black Dynamite when we got there because it made every reference and joke and like little Easter egg that it could to, what kind of created the genre. And it also gave me new perspective on blaxploitation films that I loved growing up, like Undercover Brother. Like I saw Undercover Brother through a new set of eyes because of everything that you had kind of like shown me. So you definitely didn't fail me, even if I didn't like a lot of those movies. But with Claudine, here's my thoughts on the movie. When I went on Letterboxd and I saw that it had a pretty good score and like it's mostly a positively reviewed film, I do agree that the themes of the film are the best part of the movie. The way it tackles, the welfare world, and how it's essentially a scam, and how it keeps a lot of especially in those days, Black families down. Like a single mother in this case is kind of in a cyclical nature of just being screwed. I think this movie tackles that very, very well. And in the end, right, I like the idea of this guy who comes into this household that's, like you said, I would see a woman with 6 kids from different baby daddies and I'd be out. I wouldn't even have entertained the idea. But he, kind of steps into this fatherly role for these kids at a certain point in the film and ultimately comes back to kind of start the family with them. I think what it really comes down to for me, though, while I can appreciate those things, while I thought there was great moments of acting between our 2 main leads in the film, as a diehard Star Wars fan, it's always nice to see James Earl Jones in anything, especially some pre-Star Wars stuff. So there was a charm to him. There was a charm to the character of Claudine in the film for sure. And there was even a charm to a lot of these human family moments. What I really felt that the film for me just kind of lacked was in its pacing. I think that it's a film that its age kind of works against it for somebody who's seeing it for the first time. And I think that, just to be clear, and Rashad would know this, but I've reviewed films on my channel going back to like 1931, I think is the oldest film I've covered. I've covered tons of old films. So by no means am I like a film fan who's like, I don't watch anything past, earlier than 2010. Like, no, like I love watching older films. Some of my favorite films of all time come from like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And so for me with this movie, I just never really got into the characters. I appreciated what the film was telling me. Like I felt like the movie was trying to say things and showcase a nice story. And there were moments that really worked. There was moments I found myself glued to the screen. And then there was moments I was just dying for the movie to be over just because it felt like it was just trudging along. Now, I will, jump on what you said there. I thought the soundtrack was great. I thought the score throughout the course of the movie was nice. There are nice moments in there that feel like a classic Black film of this era that very much had soul to it. And I think the way that the film wraps up is meant to leave you like, all right, he came back. But where's where I really struggled, really, was that James Earl Jones's character is kind of wishy-washy for me. And I know that that's part of the story in the latter half when he leaves and he comes back. But at first, he comes off kind of creepy to me, to be honest, when he first is coming at her. He comes at her like if some dude was coming at a woman like that, it would just come off creepy. Now, I know it's a different time. It was meant to come off a different way. So I can totally appreciate that. It felt like, though, he was just kind of like a creep half the movie. He's like adamant about taking her out. Like he's got a chef waiting. And then, he's trying to like the second that he gets her into his place, he's trying to take her clothes off. And he's just kind of creepy about it. Like, hey, let me help you take your shirt off. And then they end up just sleeping together. From what I saw in the movie and the scenes, it didn't seem like they actually went on said date. And then at a certain point, she's really into him. She really wants to be with him. And he's just like livid about the idea of like actually making this an official thing. He's like, well, slow down now. We said that this wasn't going to be that. Like, what, you were trying to make this more than what we're doing? She's like, I can't be coming home to my kids at 3, 4, 5 in the morning every day anymore. And he's just like, I don't know. Like he came off kind of like an asshole. Then he decides to commit. Like it's the flip around in that same scene where he's like, you know what? I'm not leaving anywhere. And he gives her the hug and then he's going to go. And then they get to the welfare like scene. And he's just like, the second he hears what he already knows he's going to hear from the welfare people, the things he already said in the previous scene that he was worried about happening, that they're going to lock him down, then he's like, forget about this. Oh, this is crazy. And he like storms off. And then he's back to being with her and like being kind of a father figure for these kids. You have these moments where he's, kind of stepping in as a dad, listening to them, talking to them, connect with them. Those moments I was like, okay, this movie is starting to pick up. And then again, he's like, I'm out. Like it just felt like he was so wishy-washy that it made me feel bad for the character of Claudine and these kids. The kids who a lot of times are kind of obnoxious. Like, you don't really get to know these kids individually. Like, that's the kid that, thinks he's invisible, and that's the girl that wants to go out and party, and that's the guy who's going to call his mom like a floozy for wanting to go out there and see other guys. And there wasn't much meat on the bones to these characters. So by the time we got to the end, I just felt like you have this wishy-washy male lead that's trying to get with this girl, this woman who deserves somebody at this. She seems like she's a very pleasant character. She deserves to have somebody stand by her side, which he ultimately does. But like, he kind of like puts her through the ringer when she's already kind of having a tough time. She's got her, one daughter getting pregnant. She's got, kid that feels invisible. She's got these other kids that are just, causing problems. She's got welfare issues. She's broke. Like, the whole thing for me was like, it was just I felt like I was just watching characters struggle with this love story that the film was trying to tell me, you should like this. And I just never did. And so by the time I got to the end of the movie, again, I can appreciate so much about the soundtrack. I can appreciate maybe what this was for people at the time. I can appreciate what the movie's trying to say about welfare and families, and the fact that the character comes back and it has a happy ending. I just never connected to it, man. I just never found myself connected to these characters. And I just think it was that lack of consistency for the characters. I can appreciate a movie having its ups and downs, these characters going through stuff. Every good romance has the characters have a honeymoon phase at the beginning, a struggle somewhere in the middle, and kind of some sort of resolution in the end. And this film, followed that format, but he was just so wishy-washy that it was just so hard to really connect. I don't know what else to say other than that,
I wouldn't say wishy-washy. Okay, my take on it is that he played a person. He played a real person. Like, dudes, even though I think we're less complicated than women are the most complicated creatures God ever created. I think part of the reason God created women was to stress us out, give us pleasure and pain at the same time. But I feel like he was a real dude. His intentions at first was, I want to smash. Claude, this chick is bad. I want to smash, but she has 6 kids. So it goes from that to, well, after he smashed it, of course, he got sprung. Now, okay, I want to be with this person, but then now I got to take on her kids. So he goes through a transition phase of single man, garbage man, and the thing about him and Claudine also, they both have a past. Like, remember, they were having a conversation about, he was like, man, wait a minute, how'd you end up with 6 kids at 36? And then she went to questioning him, and she was like, well, how's a man your age don't have any kids? And come to find out, he has kids that he doesn't see or that he really doesn't take care of. So he's not exactly perfect. Like I said, a regular dude. If this is a Tyler Perry movie, and I shouldn't compare Tyler Perry, but just to give an example, the thing with his characters is he makes one extreme or the other. You know what I'm saying? He either makes the character. So if he would have made this movie, James Earl Jones would have been either the really super clean cut, nice guy without spot or blemish, or he would be the asshole that's just mad for no reason and abusive. Right. His character was like right down the middle. So even with these kids at first, it's a rocky relationship because the kids, especially the oldest boy, wasn't feeling them. Right. And I relate more to that character because that was me. Whenever my mom got a new boyfriend, I was the oldest son. Like, man, get out of here. Every time my mom would cry over you, it's going to cost you a quart of blood. You think about that, trying to get tough with him. So he goes through all that. And then, okay, now we go to the next level. Now we're talking about moving in together. Oh, shit, I don't know about this, man. I'm getting cold feet. Perez, we all go through that. 1 minute we feel like, damn, I want to be with this woman. Then it's like, damn, she do got these kids, but I really love her. But I don't know about this, man.
A bullshit.
And you kind of go all over the place with it. So that's what I appreciated because he was a real character. And then what really pushed him over the edge was when he got hit up for child support, where they were docking his pay. Right. And it's like, well, shit, how the fuck am I going to take care of her with these 6 kids? And now they're taking me for child support. Now I'm boxing the corner. I don't know what to do. So what does he do? He gets on the bottle. He gets on the drink. I can't take this, man. I got to leave. I got to get out of here. That's when the oldest boy found him in the bar, pissed drunk, had to knock him out, literally knock sense into him, and that's when he came back. And So yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I don't think he was wishy-washy. I just think he was a real dude. And from my experience, I've seen, besides myself, I've seen other guys go through that. When you're dealing with a woman with kids, it's a tricky thing, man.
Right, which was part of another thing that was like I was struggling with the movie was like I just felt like I never like the family dynamic. There was too many kids, and the movie doesn't do enough with any of them for you to ever really like. They're just like there, and then they're obnoxious, they're crazy, and then they kind of move on to the next scene, or they get pushed into another room, or they have a line of dialogue, and then they're gone. I guess wishy-washy. I still feel the same way, right? But I totally get with what you're saying, and I think for me, it's not about going through that range of emotions because I do agree that on paper the character is he's got layers to him. He wants to be there. He wants to. Initially it started as like a lustful thing. He wants to try. He realizes it's going to be hard on him. Things get even harder, and he turns to drinking. Like that part I get because you're right. It feels human. It feels like a human, real story.
Right.
I think it was the abrupt nature of these swaps on his end. I think it was that part of the movie where he was just abruptly like, I'm on board. I'm out of here. Like he was just so quick to just do any of those choices to the point where it was just kind of like, all right, like who is this character? Like who is he truly? What does he truly want? I never felt truly connected to him because he just felt like a guy in some ways that felt both selfless, selfish, entitled, and like just loving all at the same time. Like there was just parts of him that felt super endearing and parts of him that just felt super frustrating. And again, that's humanity. There's a human nature to that. I just think it was so abrupt in the way the film portrayed these moments that I struggled. But like when it comes down to the character of Claudine, because there is more to the movie. I think that she was a very likable character. There were some funny moments between her and her kids that I really enjoyed. There were sequences I enjoyed, and I appreciated kind of a realistic look at a mother dealing with so many different personalities in that household. Just like the son, like you mentioned. I wasn't. I had my moments, but it's kind of similar when I was growing up. My mom, had some boyfriends at times, and there was kind of that older son kind of like defensiveness that had to kick in at times, and so I definitely appreciated that side of it. The reality that faces a lot of parents. Their young teenage daughter getting pregnant. It happens a lot in the world.
Right.
So there are some realistic things that they were tackled in this film. I just think it really, for me, came down to execution, and I think it also came down to just how some of these scenes aged. I think Claudine could be remade today and be a great movie. Like if you take the same general ideas, the same struggles, the 6 kids, the same idea, the nature of this guy leaving and second guessing. I just don't think that the movie executed it in a way where I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch that again. It just didn't have that entertainment value. It didn't have that capturing narrative value for me to really be in love with it. Like honestly, and I'm skating around. Like I like, we're both film critics, so we try to break things down. But I'm skating around the reality that I was just bored to tears watching the movie. Like I was just super.
Why'd you just say that from the jump?
Because I want to, I want to talk about the things I like and didn't like, because there are things, as a film fan, like I'm always going to approach things because I think sometimes people just slap the label of like, oh, that was boring, or oh, that was, that was cool, or, oh, that was action packed, and that's all they that's all they took away from it, Whereas for me, it's like it was just, there were layers to it. There was that part of my film critic mind that was like, okay, this is grabbing me. I felt my heartstrings being played at. Only for me to be like halfway through another scene and like another scene or two, get 15, 20 minutes more in, and I'm just like, this is a slog. It felt like a slog to get through. It felt like a chore.
Damn. Well, yeah, I can appreciate how you felt, explained yourself and, both sides, and that you did appreciate some things they try to do with it, even though it bored you, because I know me, when something bores me, I get really disrespectful. So I appreciate the fact that you at least showed some class and, broke it down educationally, whereas my crazy ass, I'd have been like, man, that shit was trash, man. It was boring, put me to sleep.
Like when I showed you when a monster calls with the little boy in the big tree.
Yeah.
I remember like I love that movie, and I remember I had you on for it, and you the whole time were just like, I don't remember what happened. I was falling asleep. This was boring.
Well, here's the thing, bro. It's like I have to connect with it, and I think the reason why Claudine resonates so much with me is because I know that world. Like I was born in '79, so I wasn't around in the '70s, but that life bled over into the '80s. So I know about welfare and food stamps. I remember when food stamps came in Monopoly money. Like they would give you a booklet, and they would have like the actual. It would look like money. But Monopoly money, those were actually food stamps. We'd have to go to the store and use it like cash. I remember those days. And like I said, I can relate to a man coming into the picture and being the man of the house where I'm the oldest of my mom's kids. So it's like, damn, who's this dude coming in trying, take my mama's hand? And out of all the kids, I will say, okay, it's 6 of them, right? But the only 2 that really had any kind of character was the oldest boy and the one that got pregnant. The other ones are kind of disposable, a little bit. I hate to say it like that, but they are. But I felt like Charles was, I liked his character because he comes across as this angry militant brother. He's part of the revolution or whatever back then, like the Black Panthers and all that. He was a revolutionary brother, but he was angry at the fact that my mom had kids by all these different dudes. And remember, there was one point where he said, "Oh, I hate them." Like one thing we don't need around here is another nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just an angry kid, and he has those moments with Claudine where he's like, sometimes I just wake up, I just be crying for no reason. And got a vasectomy. Like this dude, he's got some mental problems, but you can see him starting to accept James Earl Jones's character because okay, this guy, he's here for the long run, and then when he disappears, it's like, dang, you broke my mama's heart. Now I gotta go see him. And when they have that moment of when he knocks him out. And James Earl Jones hugs him, like you could see the vulnerability in his face, like, man, just let me go, man. Like you could tell he wanted to cry. That got me. Like there was moments in that movie that like actually got me because I could connect with it, So pretty much what I'm saying is if I can't relate to it in some way, you lose me. But I know these characters, I know these people. My criticism about the movie, though, is Claudine herself, who Diane Carroll did a great job. She actually got nominated for an Oscar. I don't know if you know that, but she got nominated for an Oscar for this movie.
Really?
Which is rare for Black actors and actresses at the time. But Claudine was not so realistic because growing up in a Black neighborhood, Black households, with those 6 kids, if this was realistic, Perez, those kids would have been getting their asses whooped throughout the movie. All right. Moms, my aunties, my grandmother, none of them played that shit. So remember the scene where the little boy slapped the girl? Right, and she was like, why'd you hit that baby like that? Don't you ever hit that baby? Yeah. Shit. Let me tell you something. If I did my brother like that, my mom would have came in there with a belt, wrapped that shit around her hand like this. I told you, you ain't got no kids. If you do something, you tell me, and you the oldest, and you don't hit him. And by the end, I'm like a giant whelp.
Right.
That's the only thing I would say that the movie wasn't realistic is that Claudine didn't handle those kids like typical Black mothers did at that time. Like, mothers, period. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have a Cuban background, right? So,
yeah, I have Cuban, Puerto Rican. Don't get, I got my ass whooped plenty of times.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so moms be using like shoes and belts and whatever she can get her hands on. Like, did you ever have to go get a switch?
Go get a switch?
You know what a switch is?
No.
Okay, a switch is a branch off of a bush. So if your mom got mad, you said, "Perez, go out there and get a switch." You had to go outside, go to the nearest bush or tree, break off a branch, and it had to be a nice size one. Because if you come back with one like this, you go out and get the whole tree. You had to come back with a nice size switch, a branch, take the leaves off of it. Right, you had to take the leaves off and hand it to your mom. Think of that psychology. You have to go outside to get something to give to your mom to beat you with. Right.
I think my mom made me do that once with like her belt, but like, never a switch, but
never a switch. Yeah.
But I definitely got, the shoes and the belt and, maybe some remote controllers thrown at my head, that kind of thing,
Oh yeah. I've had that too. Yeah. Switches sting though, man. Switches. I think I'd rather get hit with a belt because a belt hurts, but it's like a different hurt. Like a switch will like cut you open. Right. So being that I'm light skinned, when my mom would hit me with a switch, they'd be like whelps all over me. So my mom had to come up with another plan because I remember she was on the phone with my auntie and she said, "Well, Gail, how can I beat his ass without it showing on him? Because I don't want him to go to school and they're gonna." She said, "Well, Joe, here's what you do, baby. You get a washcloth, right? Because you hit him with the washcloth, the whelps ain't gonna show." My auntie gave my mom tips on how to whoop me. So she said, "Girl, that's a good idea." She went and got a wash rag, and and no whelps showed up. And from that point, that's how she whooped me.
So yeah, Claudine's not
Nah,
not too authentic.
nah. Well, she did hit the one daughter when she found out that she was pregnant. She did beat her with a brush.
Right.
That part worked, but yeah, this movie just really connected with me though, because I could really relate to it, and it's a shame that you didn't really like it.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's gonna be people who watch this, and I'm already foreseeing the comments of like, well, he can't connect with it because he comes from like he's white skinned, or like this isn't like his time, or it's his kind of family dynamic. And I totally appreciate that, right? Like it is that kind of thing. It's like when I watch a movie that has Hispanic characters. One thing that people I've heard hate is when there's moments where people who speak Spanish they say a quick line and there's no subtitles because then they feel left out. Whereas I love when I watch a movie that's mostly in English and the characters say something in Spanish and I can pick up on it and know what they said. You don't miss anything by not hearing it, but it's kind of like added on. Especially when I watch like any sort of like family film or like an animated, like or something like Coco or something like, there's like whatever, any random movie that has Hispanic characters in it. There's usually an element that I can kind of pick up on a little bit more than other people, and that I can relate to, just a little bit more, like the Spanish household dynamics, even though even from places that are not, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and like kind of nationality, like just Hispanic stuff in general. So I totally recognize that there's probably going to be some people that just feel like they know why, or they assume why I can't connect with it. But at the same time, I've also watched plenty of Black films and have praised many and loved plenty and been able to connect to the stories. And this just wasn't one of them, man. Yeah. It just wasn't one. But like I look forward to watching more movies and talking about them here on your channel with you, man. Because if anything, it's opened up my horizons, and there are so many great movies that you've shown me that I've never seen before, or some that like maybe I didn't love, but like I feel like I checked off a box in like cinema history. Something like Superfly. I was always aware of Superfly. I was always aware of things like Dead Presidents. There were so many movies that like I was aware of that I hadn't seen. And doing these videos with you has given me that outlet to kind of check these movies out. Even something like I can even appreciate that, because now I feel like I see more about it just randomly on social media here and there. Like I can appreciate that you showed me like Baby Boy. I didn't like that movie either, but I can appreciate that I've seen it and I get like the references and comments about things now.
I appreciate this movie, man. I think this is one of those timeless classics that definitely needs to be seen. So even if it does bore you, still watch it.
Right. So, and that I appreciate. I'm glad to have seen it.
I give Claudine A+ in my book. A+, man. Almost a flawless film that just clicks with me on every level. I can watch it no matter what time of the day and not go to sleep on it. And that's all I got, man. So what's your final thoughts?
I mean, yeah, man. It's just, at the end of the day, it's a movie I appreciate more than I enjoyed. And I just never found myself connected to it. I don't really do ratings or scores on my channel. I do it on Letterboxd, but I sometimes will go back and change things depending on how I feel. So I never really solidify it, but I haven't changed my score that I put on Letterboxd for this so far, which is a 1.5 out of 5 stars. Some people are going to think that I'm crazy for that. I get it. It's a hot take perhaps, but I just did not connect with this movie. And if you want to call me a bitch in the comments, I guess I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm sure somebody will. I've gone back to a couple of our videos. People be like, this man don't know what he's talking about.
Man, I'm not accepting any Perez slander, man. If you come disrespectful in the comments, man, you got to go.
It's all good. It's all good, man.
So yeah, that's it. That's all. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we out. Peace.
Later, everybody.